Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell.
And featuring super special guest,
the Lady Wan.
On this episode of The First Run, Matt, Lady Wan, and I are going to discuss Martin Scorsese's swan song to the gangster genre, The Irishman. The old gang's back together. We got Bobby D, we got Joey P, and then Al Pacino. And I'm not going to do it. Every time we have an Al Pacino thing, I'm supposed to do the Al Pacino impression. We have a couple fans who always email me and say, you got to do it. I'm not going to do it this week. I probably will. We're also going to discuss Rian Johnson's latest film, Knives Out, the return of the murder mystery. And if you listen to the show with any regularity, you know I have a slight affection for Rian Johnson. And then we're going to wrap everything up with our 5 favorite mystery movies since the year 2000. But before we jump into everything, Miss Lady Wan, would you mind telling us, who the hell are you? What is your show all about? I am keen to know.
So the show I do is called Screen Fix. We do a podcast where we fix a recent Hollywood movie with plot tweaks, character development, script punch-ups, but all with a sense of humor. So basically the show concept is you ever see a movie and afterwards you're telling your friend, you know what they should have done? That's the show.
Nice. I've listened to a few of your episodes. The Terminator one was the most recent one that I listened to. Now,
yeah.
In this house, we do not disrespect Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I'm glad that we didn't have any issues from that, too, from during your show. So,
son of a bitch.
So I'm glad that didn't happen. But no, I enjoyed the show. It's a lot of fun, folks. You can check it out at screenfix.com, and I'm sure you're available on all of the podcasting platforms.
Oh, yes. You can find us everywhere, and we're also on Twitter and Instagram at ScreenFixPod.
Fantastic. All right, kids, let's dive in. Let's spend a few minutes with The Irishman.
Let me put McGee on the phone.
Hello? Hey, my friend, how are you? Listen, I got that kid I was talking to you about here. I'm gonna put him on the phone and let you talk to him, okay? All right.
Hello? Is that Frank?
Yes.
Hi, Frank. This is Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah.
Glad to meet you.
Well, glad to meet you, too.
Even if it's over the phone. I heard you paint houses.
Yes, sir, I do. And I also do my own carpentry.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
I understand you're a brother of mine.
Yes, sir. Local 107 since 1947.
Yeah. You know,
Our friend speaks very highly of you.
Well, thank you.
he's not an
Easy man to please.
Well, I do my best.
Yes, he does. Matt, why don't you tell the fine folks at home or on the road, perhaps they're on their Peloton bike, which I guess is all the rage right now. Matt, what is The Irishman all about?
Okay, so it's the story of real-life mob enforcer and hitman Frank Sheeran and his relationship with Russell Bufalino, played by Joe Pesci, who was the boss of Northern Pennsylvania and the famous Teamster union organizer from the 60s and 70s, Jimmy Hoffa.
That's it. It's 3 hours long, Matt. That's it. That's all we got.
That's basically it. I mean, you know,
3.5.
3.5. I know. Chris was like, "Oh, it's 3 hours long," and then when I pull it up on Netflix, it says 3:30. I'm like, "You're a liar."
Mm-hmm.
So let's start everything off. Lady Wan, I'm going to put you on the spot, if I may.
Okay.
Scorsese's return to the genre that delivered, I think, possibly his greatest film in Goodfellas. Is this one too many trips back to the well, or do we have like a modern, epic, classic film on our hands here? What do you think?
It's tough to say because I love Goodfellas so much. Like, so much. I could just watch it forever. And I kind of feel like that's sort of what I did when I watched this. It just felt like a movie I had seen before, but I was somehow watching for the first time. So I really enjoyed it, but it's just not Goodfellas. And I love Goodfellas so much.
That's interesting. Matt, what do you think?
I think it's a fitting end to this kind of mobster trilogy that he's created, because if you look at like Goodfellas, it seems like that's like has like a youthful energy to it. That's kind of like a mob person up on the rise, whereas Casino is kind of like a mobster at his peak. And this seems to be like a mobster in decline kind of thing, right? And even just the de-aging stuff, even just watching that when they're supposed to be younger and these kind of virile, you know, tough guys, you still can't get past that. It's like Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, who can barely hobble along anymore doing this stuff. So it was a very interesting juxtaposition. I enjoyed this a lot. I thought it was quite good, but it doesn't have the immediacy that like Goodfellas or even Casino has. I feel like it's kind of Marty saying, and we're friends, so I call him Marty, him saying that I've kind of done what I can with this genre, and I'm going to show the last bit of what I've got left in me. And he kind of threw it all out there just for like one final go.
It sounds to me, though, faint praise by you on that, Matt, and perhaps even you, Miss. I don't... It bothers me, because I'm going to tell you, all right, so Scorsese's delivered some absolutely classic films, particularly also not just in the gangster genre, but particularly in the gangster genre. And for me, he's kind of brought something new to it every single time, and I think he's done that again here. I appreciate that maybe, and if I had any criticisms for the film, it would be perhaps the de-aging effects and some of those creaky, air quotes, action scenes, particularly when he goes to defend the honor, right, of his daughter. You could clearly tell that's a guy in his 60s or 70s who's assaulting somebody. But still, outside of that, I think there's a much deeper substance and meaning to The Irishman that we didn't get in Casino or Goodfellas. And there is just it's much more contemplative for me, and there's a lot more depth in this than I think there were in those other ones. I almost feel like he couldn't have made this film until now, because he needed to have him and his cast kind of needed that kind of seasoning and almost that elder statesman-like quality and gravity that they bring to this film. It's a lot quieter, right? Then it's not as flashy, and it's just a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I guess maybe just stick with what I said. It's a quieter film. I think maybe that may be buoyed by Pesci. Because Scorsese really reins him in here, right? Mm-hmm. We're used to Joey P being just this mile-a-minute motor mouth, real flashy, real, right? And he's much more reserved in this thing. And I think it works to his advantage. He's probably one of my favorite things about this film. There are just moments where Pesci just turns his head and tilts it and gives you a look. When I was watching this thing going, God damn, that guy's good. Yeah. And it's just... I loved watching I think these three legends turning in, I think, some of their best performances. And it's just, especially watching De Niro kind of slowly sinking into this organized crime life, right? That he actively pursues in the beginning. And it costs him everything. It costs him his family, his daughter, and he doesn't seem to care, right? He's so kind of more obsessed with it. And maybe near the end of his arc, he kind of realizes everything he sacrificed to do this. And we can talk about Anna Paquin and all the stuff that we've been seeing online about her. Mm-hmm. But this clearly, I think, had a much deeper impact to me than it may have both of you. Am I misreading that, Lady Wan? What are your thoughts on this thing?
No, I think you're right. I think this does feel like it has so much more substance to it. And it is a deeper film, for sure, than Goodfellas. I think it's just, for me, the difference was like the entertainment factor. Like I said, I could watch Goodfellas literally at any time, any day. I'm down to watch it. But this is like, you've got to be invested in it. You've got to be focused. I had to rewind it a few times because I was just staring at it and not really taking in what was happening. I'm like, no, this is important. This movie took me 4.5 hours to watch. It's only 3.5 hours long. I did have to stop briefly to make myself like pasta and have red wine because I couldn't deal like watching the movie and not having it.
I appreciate you though sticking with the Italian theme, so that's good.
Well, the thing is, I had enchiladas and I couldn't eat them. I had to put them back and go make pasta.
Wait a minute, we need to back up. What's the enchilada story? What's wrong with your enchiladas?
Oh, absolutely nothing was wrong with them, but it was tonally all wrong. For the viewing experience.
I appreciate that you matched up your food pairings with your films. That's good to know.
There was no other choice to be made.
Are you wrong?
No, God, no, I know I'm not wrong.
You are known to be wrong. I mean, I know you make declarations that I'm always the wrong one here, but no, I think Lady Wan has it right. I mean, it is a very contemplative, slow film, and it just doesn't have that kind of propulsive quality. That's not a bad thing. I just don't see myself coming back to this and watching this like compulsively like I do Goodfellas or even Casino. I've never really been a fan of Al Pacino's later work. I think it is too over the top, too much, and I think he reins some of that back, but still some of his worst impulses are here. And like the guy that played Michael Corleone is long gone. I don't know what happened to that guy, but this is. I hesitate to say that it's good all the way through, just because I think Pesci is absolutely fantastic. He's the best thing he's ever done. But like De Niro seems to me almost like it's like he's doing the same thing he's done before. Like this character that he's playing doesn't have a lot of the nuance of some of his other characters. It's just kind of this flatline thing that he seems to be coasting through.
Oh, good God, no. Now, I will give you the whole thing about Pacino, right? I think Scorsese reins him in, which I think is a joy for me, because I don't need to see, here it is, great ass! So I don't need to see that anymore at this point. But it's also an odd way, it's a sadness, because he's pulled in a little bit. He's a lot more reserved in this thing. But in regards to De Niro, I think he's fantastic in this, and I think what makes the film click for me is Anna Paquin's character. I think when we look at all those moments when she's on screen, I know this whole hullabaloo about she's got like 6 lines or something like that, and it doesn't, which
not even like 6 lines, like 6 words.
Yeah. But it's the looks, right? She has a lot of nonverbal acting in this. It's exceptionally powerful, and there's a lot of key moments in this film where we're looking at him through her eyes, right? We're getting her perspective, her visage, and you can see the disappointment and everything, and then when he sees and recognizes that, it's just that much more powerful. This film's a lot more haunting to me than any of the other Your Goodfellas, Your Casinos. I've actually watched this 2.5 times already. I was lucky able to see it here at the theater, at Tampa Theater, and then I watched it at home, and I started watching it again the other night. There is something just hypnotic about this thing that it's been stuck in my head since I saw it. I keep wanting to go back to it. I'm not sure I can even figure out what that is, but it's just so, I don't know. I can't verbalize what it is. I'm just hypnotized by this thing.
What did you think about Anna Paquin's performance?
I thought it was great. I thought it was powerful. I thought it was exceptionally moving. How she realized she can't come to her father for anything. The whole family can't, because they don't know what's going to happen. That scene alone, when it's not even her, it's the young woman playing her as a girl, right? Where she's eating dinner after the incident. She's watching her father the whole time because she doesn't know if he's going to erupt at any point. And then we fast forward, and it's her looking at him through the doorway when he's packing his bag to go kill somebody and leave, or him walking out the door from the top of the stairs, or the confrontation at the end when she asks him, "Why haven't you called Joe?" I mean, every one of those scenes, I think, were some of the most powerful things in this film. So I think she's great at it. Lady Wan, am I off base here?
No, she's fantastic. I read so much ahead of this at how few lines she has, and I was ready to be mad. I was ready to be like, come on, where's her performance? Why doesn't she get to do anything? And that's not true at all. She does everything. She just does it without talking. So she was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. She was really good. Although it did strike me, I was like, why is Anna Paquin not saying anything in this film for the first few scenes that she was in? But it's really interesting because, what Scorsese does, because this is obviously Frank Sheeran's a real guy, and this is based on a book, his confessions to while he was in a nursing home close to death, called "I Hear You Paint Houses" is what it's called. But his daughter, literally after that moment, never spoke to him again, and like it's kind of like she's kind of this force of conscience. She's kind of this force of what he's going to lose. That's this almost like a silent banshee that just kind of roams around his periphery, just kind of showing him what he's going to lose if he keeps going down this path. And then it's there. So I didn't have a problem with it as it kind of more sunk in, but I will say that initially it was weird to me that she wasn't speaking very much.
But you got it. You came around.
Yeah.
You're a smart guy.
That's what people say.
No, she's the heart of the film for me in a way. She's the moral center.
It's a long review. We don't usually talk this long about a movie.
We have a guest.
It's a long movie.
Yeah. It is a 3.5 hour movie.
So I think
some of us have
let's
watched
spend
more
another
than
45 minutes on it, and then we can move on. No. As I said, clearly I love this. Are we good? What do you want? Any other final thoughts? No?
Good.
Matt, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. Well,
awesome.
Clearly, I'm going to give The Irishman an A. I think it's one of the best films of 2019. It is a time investment, but it's well worth that time. I don't think there's a wasted minute in this thing. All 3.5 hours, I just want to keep pouring over it like a great book. and I'll probably watch it again soon. So, A. Lady Wan, break it down. What you got?
I gotta give it a B minus because it's really great, but I don't ever want to watch it again.
What?
And I can't give it that time again. So B minus.
Is it time commitment?
It's time commitment, but it's also the middle dragged a bit for me. The performances are great, but it takes so long, and there's just kind of parts where I'm drifting in and out. So I gotta go B minus.
All right, my heart is slightly broken. Matt, can you mend it, or am I crushed forever?
No, I don't think you'll be crushed forever. I gave it a B plus. I think it's a fitting coda to Scorsese's Mafia trilogy. I think it's a good down note to end on. And I think everybody should watch it. I think it is a great film. It's just, for me, it's not as visceral as some of his other work, which is fine. You connected to it as the old man of this trio right now. You're the old man of the group, so obviously you connected to it a lot more than we did.
I am 28 years old. How dare you? All right, you know what, Lady Wan, we do a segment sometimes on this show called What Are the Odds? It's usually a final segment, and what we do is we ask you to ascribe the odds of something happening or not happening. So, The Irishman, give me like a percentage, 30%, 25, 80, whatever. The Irishman, what are the odds that it gets a Best Picture nomination at the Academy Awards?
Like 80%.
80. Matt?
Yeah, I almost want to say 100%. With a 10 film field, and we've had that this year has not been great for Oscar bait, although we're getting into that season, but there's really only like a month left. So I mean, I definitely think this could easily is going to be now, even as a Netflix film.
That was my question. Is the streaming I know it's had a limited release, but is Netflix going to hurt it?
Not at all. I mean, Roma was fine.
Did it get a Best Picture? It did get a Best Picture nom. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I remember because I swore for 5 minutes when it won Best Foreign Language Film because I knew then it wasn't going to win Best Picture, which is going to happen to Parasite this year, and I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I say it's about basically 100% that it's going to get an Oscar nom. There's just too much love for it. I'd be shocked, especially with a 10 film field potentially. I think that's it. Good times. If you had a chance to see The Irishman, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. We'll get some big stuff coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, December 10th. In fact, possibly one of the best films of the year is getting its release. Let's take a listen.
Are you some old cowboy guy that used to make movies there?
Whoa. I'm surprised how accurate that description of me really is. Some old cowboy guy that used to shoot movies at Spawn Ranch.
So you used to make westerns at the ranch back in the old-timey days?
Well, if by the old-timey days you mean television 8 years ago, yeah.
Are you an actor?
No, I'm a stuntman.
Stuntman. That's way better.
Why is that way better?
Actors are phony.
Oh.
They just say lines that other people write and pretend to murder people on their stupid TV shows. Meanwhile, real people are being murdered every day in Vietnam.
It's true. So coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, December 10th, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A favorite film of the year for us, Lady Wan. Were you a fan of the movie or what?
I really did enjoy it, but I definitely fell asleep.
Okay.
There's a lot of driving scenes.
That's true. There is a lot of tours of Hollywood in that film. Yes. That is very true. Steelbook from Best Buy is coming out. There's over 20 minutes of additional scenes, 5 exclusive behind-the-scenes featurettes as well. And there is a Blu-ray exclusive set that includes some miniature posters and a 7-inch vinyl record of a couple Rick Dalton songs. There's a bunch of stuff in that. I just don't know if I can justify spending like $60 for this thing, for that edition. I don't think I'm going to do it. Chapter 2 of It is being released. There's a Best Buy Steelbook on that, as well as a 2-film set. You can get them both on 4K. I think I'd sit on this, because I imagine they're going to release director's cuts of both films at some point in a year or so. I'm not sure, but you can pick it up next week as well. Include some audio commentary by Muschietti and some making of featurettes. Jennifer Lopez's roaring return to the big screen, Hustlers, is being released as well. Includes a feature commentary with the director, Lorraine Scafaria. I should ask you, Lady Wan, do you have any thoughts on those films as well? Hustlers, It Chapter 2?
I really, really liked It Chapter 2, and I am a notorious scaredy cat, so I don't know how good that is for the movie that I was not afraid of it, but I still had a good time with it. Thought they were great performances.
That is good. Director Alejandro Landez's Monos, or is it Manos? Manos? Manos, The Hands of Fate, is being released. It's about on a faraway mountaintop, 8 kids with guns watch over a hostage and a conscripted milk cow. This was playing locally here. I desperately wanted to see it. It was basically here for a week or so, and I did not get to, so now I can finally watch it. New to Blu-ray, Criterion is releasing Until the End of the World, Wim Wenders' latest film. Claire, a young French woman who comes into contact with a large sum of money stolen during a bank heist. In her travels, she picks up a mysterious American hitchhiker who himself steals some of the money before parting from her company. Criterion is also giving us Old Joy. 2 old pals reunite for a camping trip in Oregon's Cascade Mountains. New 2K digital restorations of both films and a slew of features. If you're Criterion fans, you want to pick those up, especially the Wim Wenders. Shout Factory, oh boy, I'm excited for this one. They're releasing The Fly Collection. Now, I love the original Vincent Price film. I haven't seen, I confess, any of the sequels, but it also includes the modern-day versions as well. The remake, the Jeff Goldblum film, as well as Part 2, which is okay, but if you're a gore fan, it is a treat. And they have a whole bunch of new stuff in here, a bunch of new audio commentaries, new transfers for all the films. If you're a Fly fan, Shout Factory is delivering. You're going to get The Fly, Return of the Fly, Curse of Said Fly, and then 86 is The Fly, and the 1989 sequel, The Fly Part 2, in a snazzy-looking box. The Cotton Club Encore is also being released, Francis Ford Coppola's film, with a brand new remastered and reconstructed 4K scan, an introduction to The Cotton Club Encore by Mr. Coppola himself, and more. And then David Lynch's Twin Peaks From Z to A. This is everything in the Twin Peaks oeuvre in one set, just in time for the holidays. A show I have yet to ever see. It's been in my Netflix queue forever. I love Lynch, but I've never gotten around to seeing it. What about you guys? Matt, have you seen you a Twin Peaks guy?
No, I'm in the same boat. It's one of those things I've always meant to catch up with, but I've never actually seen it. I just don't have time, man. My life is ending. I'm in middle age now. Like I don't have time to sit down and start this stuff.
I'm with you. Lady Wan, are you a Twin Peakser? Is that what they are? A Peaks head? A Peakophile?
I like the phrase peak's head. No, same boat completely. Like on the list to see, but there's so much content.
It's so too much. Speaking of which, have you guys been watching Watchmen?
No, so much content.
I know. I caught the first 2 episodes. I was like, man, that was awesome, and I haven't touched it in like weeks. I saw the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. Now I'm way behind on that. I can't keep up with it,
man. I'm caught up on that, and then I am caught up now on Watchmen. And sweet God, Watchmen is fantastic.
Is it?
That's what I keep hearing.
I'm blown away by that show every week. Every week I'm thinking they can't outdo themselves, and then they do. All right, your straight-to-DVD pick of the week is The Reliant. After an innocent trip to the store ends in rioting and chaos, father of 5, Rick, played by Kevin Sorbo, rushes home, desperate to gather his family and find safety. His plans are dashed when the very same armed men suddenly appear. Caught in the deadly crossfire, the children are forced to fight for their lives, their home, and their family. This is that Christian action film where Sorbo has to defend his family from the libs who are coming to steal his guns. And it looks suitably terrifyingly bad. And awesomely bad at the same time. I think, Matt, we may have to do The Reliant for the show at some point.
All right.
Fair enough. What should we be streaming this week, Matt?
So, believe it or not, it's the end of the year. So, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to recommend a film that we have talked about so many times on this show that Chris is not allowed to talk about it anymore. But
what?
I had the urge to watch it the other day. And man, it had been years since I'd seen it, and I had remembered it was really good, but I forgot just how good it was. And so I'm going to recommend Drive, starring Ryan Gosling with Netflix available. It's just a fantastic crime film by Nicholas Winding Refn. And if you go into it with very little expectations, not knowing really what it is, I think you're going to enjoy it a lot more. And I also, Chris, I also had never seen Only God Forgives, so I watched the first I got maybe 10 minutes into it. I haven't been able to pick it back up, but I'm actually, since you like that film, I'm actually I'm very concerned for your mental state after watching the first.
You've only seen the first 10 minutes.
Huh?
That film is a waking nightmare. It is awesome. It is, and you have to envision it is that the cop who's investigating everything, he's God.
Okay, well, I'm 10 minutes in. I'm going to go back to it.
All right. I thought you may have seen it already at one point.
Yeah.
So, Lady Wan, I am not allowed to talk about the film Matt brought up because I mentioned it a lot. I'm not allowed. Well, I can say the word drive. I'm not allowed to include it in any top fives anymore because it's basically probably my favorite film of the past, since it came out?
Past 10 years, probably.
I love that damn thing. Have you seen Drive? You seen Only God Forgives? Either of those?
I have not seen Drive, and it is currently in my queue on Netflix.
Yeah, you got to put that next on your list.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. All right, moving on, folks. Matt asked me last week, when we watch Knives Out, is this going to be like the next Drive? So one of Rian Johnson's other films, his first film, Brick, is an all-time favorite of mine. If you're not familiar with Brick, it is basically a film noir set in modern times, but based in a high school, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And it is an all-time... I watch it at least once a year. Sometimes 2-3 times. So, and I love Brothers Bloom, another Rian Johnson film. And Looper is a lot of fun. And then his little indie film, The Last Jedi, which nobody has a strong opinion about. So this is his latest, his riff on the murder mystery, Knives Out. Let's take a listen and share our thoughts.
Oh, let me guess.
Hey, stop.
Hugh Drysdale?
Call me Ransom. It's my middle name. Only the help calls me Hugh.
Okay. This is Trooper Wagner. I'm Lieutenant Elliott. Just want to ask a few questions.
Excuse me. Sir? We're officers of the law.
You gonna run me in? I don't feel like talking. I'm distraught.
Hey, Benny, you want to ask this guy some questions?
All right, what is this? What's this arrangement?
Mr. Drysdale.
CSI KFC?
All right, Matt, Knives Out. Is it a fun, rollicking murder mystery? Or has Johnson failed us again? He cannot be given the new Star Wars trilogy. Rose Tico forever.
Chris, you're aware, and I've mentioned it before. I don't share the affection for the mystery genre that you do. I find it kind of cliche and hoary myself, but I had fun watching this. It was a pretty good time, and I do like the feint that Johnson puts in, like very early in the film, that makes it kind of turns the whole thing on its head and kind of makes you wonder where the hell this thing is going. The cast is great. Besides Daniel Craig's very questionable Louisiana accent.
Don't you dare.
Yeah. But otherwise, I had a lot of fun watching this. I mean, I was along for the ride. It's got humor. It's got, a lot of great performances. It has feeling in it. So I thought it was pretty good.
Super special guest, Lady Wan. Thoughts on Knives Out? Feel free to answer the question or do what you want. I'm easy.
So I love a murder mystery. I love it. Agatha Christie is my favorite author. Clue is one of my favorite movies. I will say I was expecting from the trailer Knives Out to be a little zanier, a little more on the Clue spectrum, less on the Gosford Park spectrum. But I still really, really enjoyed it. I love a murder mystery. And, like you said, Matt, the kind of early on twists that we get to kind of say, okay, it's not exactly what you think it's going to be. Really, really enjoyed that. I just love trying to get one step ahead of what's about to happen and figuring out the ending. And I really, really enjoyed this one. Amazing cast.
Nice. Oh, yeah. I mean, the cast in this thing is phenomenal. I kind of found it to be a slightly flawed blast. Right, I think it takes the mystery movie with its twists and turns, adds some new diversions into it as well. I think it kind of bobs and weaves on you. Every time you think, oh, this is what's going to happen, then something else happens. And every time it reveals something, you think, oh, maybe that's a little too much. But in the end, it's not. And it all kind of really elegantly comes together. And speaking of elegant, I think this thing is exceptionally well shot and framed. The way Johnson kind of puts this film, assembles it with these different kind of angles and the way, how do I say this? I'm just gonna cop out. The way basically that he shoots this thing is really fun and interesting. How he's able to portray this family's wealth and opulence, right? And it's exceptionally well done. I think he gives every member of the cast at least one great moment. He's very smartly economical about that, which I think is quite a feat given the size of this all-star cast. I think if I had any criticism of it, it's slightly undone, I think, by its attempt at timeliness in addressing some of the political issues today. Now, we don't talk politics a lot on this show. Some people, if you listen with any regularity, know I'm a raging lefty. But even though I found it funny, it almost felt a little bit too out of place and kind of time-stamped this thing a little bit more than I wanted it to. It kind of loses almost a timelessness feel that I think, for the most part, that Johnson captures. But just for those few moments, it didn't. But either way, I thought this thing was a fantastic ride. And Matt, I want more regional Daniel Craig. I loved him in Logan Lucky.
Yes.
Right? And I love his southern accent thing here. I want to hear
So
what's
good.
next, right? Like a Philly thing, Boston. Come on.
But it's so bad. It's such a caricature.
It's so good.
I mean, okay, fair enough. If it's enjoyable in its ridiculousness, because it's just so people like British people complain about how American people, we can't do British accents.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Craig cannot do a southern accent. Nobody in the South sounds like that. In either of those performances. Not that I didn't enjoy
Daniel Craig does, and that's fine with me.
That's fine. Did you think this leaned too heavily on some of the kind of tropes of mysteries and whodunits as to fans of the genre? I mean, there's some Rashomon effect in there.
Yep.
I mean, is that like homage, or is that just kind of leaning on tropes a little too heavily?
Lady Wan, what do you think?
With a genre this specific, I don't really feel like you could lean on it too much. It's like living in it, really, rather than leaning in it.
All right.
I really, I love an eccentric detective and some reveals and some terrible, terrible family members and
We got all
some
that.
underwritten help with poor Fran. Yeah, I loved it.
I agree with Lady Wan. I think that's exactly right. I had no issues with that, and I think he does a good enough job subverting your expectations by having that reveal within the first 15, 20 minutes of the film, that turn, if I may, that really then puts you on edge. And I loved what I did not expect to see. M. Emmett Walsh, who I have not seen in I don't know how long, pops up in this thing. Frank Oz. I actually said out loud to myself, quietly, because it was just me, like, that's Frank Oz. That's so awesome. And I didn't realize Joseph Gordon-Levitt actually has a voice cameo in this thing, too, which I was not aware of until I just noticed it. And if you are a Brick fan, Dode is in this as well. He plays the state trooper. Trooper Wagner is Noah Segan. He played Dode in Brick. So I like how Rian Johnson always seems to kind of bring back his originals for at least something. So, no, Knives Out is a blast, and it's a lot of fun, and I think you should definitely see it. Any other thoughts, everybody? What do you Lady Wan, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, everybody's got to go see it.
Yeah, I agree. How's this thing performing? Is this another one of those things where it's tanking? Oh, it is. Oh, good. That's good.
Now, they've already announced they're going to make a sequel with Craig.
Are you kidding me?
No, they did.
Okay, you're serious. Okay.
No, early this week they said they're going to make a second one with they're going to have him go to another thing, but Daniel Craig will return for his sequel. Yes.
All right, so this is going to be like the new, like a Perot kind of thing.
I believe, sure. Why not? Well, they're going to. Yeah, Kenneth Branagh's doing another film, right? For that.
Yeah, Death on the Nile.
And I got to admit, if you're an Agatha Christie fan, did you like the? I'm blanking on what it was called.
Murder on the Orient Express.
Thank you. Were you a fan of that then? That adaptation?
Yeah. I really liked it. I had forgotten how the book turned out, and I refused to reread it once the movie was announced because I wanted to be surprised. And I really loved it. It was a great cast.
I think this is better. I think Knives Out is, at least I had more fun with it than I think if I enjoyed anything more than the Orient Express, it may have just been Branagh's mustache more than anything else. And I think Knives Out is a superior film. I hate to say, or I don't hate to say it. I just said
I like that. I liked this better.
There you go. All right, grades all around. I'll go last this time. Lady Wan, what are you giving Knives Out?
I'm giving it a B+.
Okay.
I really, really dug it. It was fun. It wasn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be, but I'm learning to accept that trailers lie. And I'm trying not to judge a movie by its trailer.
Oh, I try and avoid them like the plague if I can.
They're everywhere, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird to say this, but I'm going to give it a B+. So I'm giving it the same grade that I gave The Irishman. Different spectrums of the B+ range. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I was really on board with this. It's got some great suspense. It's got some good laughs. Cast is phenomenal. You gotta love, Michael Shannon. I always loved Michael Shannon. So yeah, it's a good time.
That is good. Yeah, you guys are pretty close. It's actually an A- film, in case you were wondering.
Gosh.
I'm glad we were close.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm
glad somebody can bear witness to this besides myself.
If you've seen Knives Out, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. All right, it's top 5 time. We're now going to share with you our 5 favorite mystery movies since the year 2000. I like to limit things and make things as difficult as possible. So let's hear a clip, though, from a film that did not make the cut for me.
Mr. March, we're gonna play a game. I think you have the wrong house. It's called Shut Up Unless You're Me. I love that game. You're a private investigator? Look, there's $20 in there, all right? Just take it. No, I'm not here for that, I told you. I'm a messenger. You can afford to live like this as a PI? What's the message? Oh, right. Stop looking for Amelia. Right? I'm not even looking for Amelia. She's a person of interest, man. I'm fine. I'm done. Put a fork in me. Don't really put a fork in me. Amelia's gonna be very happy that you got the message so quickly. It's gonna make her smile. That's good. Now, I got one more thing I need to ask you before we're done here. You wanna know who hired me? Bingo. Yeah. So we can do this the easy way. We can do it the hard way. What? Lily Glenn, 2 ends. Old lady hired me to find her niece on Tuesday. You just gave up your plan. I made a discretionary revelation.
So there's a clip from Shane Black's The Nice Guys, a film that this country failed. An excellent movie, a lot of fun, and none of you sons of bitches went to see it, and I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I think this could have been a big franchise. It is so good, and nobody really went to see it. So initially, I was going to try and make this list just mystery movies. That had to be the film, but then in my benevolence, I decided to open it up a bit. And as long as the mystery is the core conceit of the movie, then I'll take Blade Runner 2049. We'll throw in The Nice Guys. Whatever. I'm cool. So let's start everything off. We'll go, Matt. Well, you know what? We're going to be nice. Usually, Lady Wan, we'll give you the ultimate number 1. So you're going to go last. So you get to drop the hammer.
Okay, no pressure.
So I'll go first, and we'll go to Matt. And there we go. So in case you were wondering, the 5th best mystery movie since 2000 is David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. His nightmarish ode to basically being a female actress or actor in Hollywood. And it is a bizarre film that takes a sharp dogleg left halfway through that I still, when I watch it, I have trouble wrapping my head around about what's happening. But the texture and the atmosphere that he's able to put into this thing, into this mystery, as to who is Rita, right? And then what's going on with Betty, and then what's going on with her aunt, and all this weird stuff, and nothing ever truly, I think, ever gets solved. But when it comes to just mysteries and thrillers, and outside of maybe Blue Velvet, I think this is Lynch's best film, and it is hypnotic, to reuse a word, and haunting, and it's a film I go back to again and again. So Mulholland Drive's my number 5.
It's a good pick. But the real number 5 film is this is the this is the film that actually caused Chris to give his benevolent decree, which I'm very appreciative that he would allow such a thing to happen. Is number 5 is 2002's Minority Report. Now, hear me out, guys. I know it's a sci-fi film, but starring Tom Cruise, based on the Philip K. Dick novel. Essentially, there are these 3 psychics that can basically predict future crimes, and it has eliminated the ability for anyone to really commit a crime that's premeditated, or at least murder that's premeditated. And essentially, the person played by Tom Cruise, the detective who's in charge of this, is accused of getting ready to commit a premeditated murder. So the rest of the film is him trying to clear his name, find out how this is even possible, and kind of going through the whole motions. It's a hell of a lot of fun. I think it's one of the better, I think it's maybe one of the best latter-day Steven Spielberg film as far as his populist fare goes. I actually adore that film. I always have a great time watching it. I think it fits the theme of this mystery because that's really the central conceit of the film, just in sci-fi trappings.
Fair enough. Lady Wan.
Yeah. My number 5, I mentioned it earlier, is Gosford Park. I hadn't seen it when it first came out. I remember vividly the movie poster. Vividly.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
And then I got really into Downton Abbey when it happened. And I was like, wait, this guy did a movie? And I went back and I watched Gosford Park, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's, despite being a period piece, it's very 2001. Like, hello, babyface Ryan Phillippe. But yeah, just a slow-paced English murder mystery in the big house. Really, really enjoyed it. It's a fun one to go back to.
I haven't seen that since it came out.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I gotta check that thing out.
Yeah.
My number 4 is possibly one of the greatest Asian imports this country's ever received. And that is Old Boy. If you're not familiar with the story of Old Boy, a man is captured and imprisoned in an apartment/cell for, 8-10 years? Longer? And then he's finally released, and he is now on a quest for revenge to find out who put him there and why. And there is a turn in this film that will haunt you for weeks, if not months later. It is one of the more disturbing things I've ever seen, but it is famous mostly, I think, for the hallway fight scene, which our guy basically has a hammer, and he has to work his way down this hallway to escape. It is it's one of my all-time favorite Asian films. Is it Old Boy Japanese? I'm blanking now. You think?
No, it's Korean.
It's Korean? Okay, yeah. Thank you. And there was a remake with Josh Brolin, which just, I think, totally failed to capture the spirit of the original. But Park Chan-wook's Old Boy is, I think, a modern classic. If you haven't seen it, it's a neo-noir action mystery thriller that will just kick your ass. So it's my number 4.
Yeah, Old Boy is a great film. A bit of a one-timer, though. I mean, it really it gets pretty intense there, especially towards the end. Okay, so my number 4 is actually the problematic Affleck brothers. Ben Affleck's directorial debut, Gone Baby Gone, based off of the Dennis Lehane novel of the same name. It basically stars Casey Affleck as a private investigator who is searching for an abducted young girl who was stolen from her single mother's apartment in like the kind of rundown Boston area of Dorchester. It's this really cool, pretty much a straightforward, hard-boiled neo-noir kind of mystery. And I have a real affection for this film. I know as far as Lehane novels go, Mystic River gets all the buzz, but I actually prefer Got Baby Gone because it's a lot more of a straightforward kind of mystery race against the clock story.
I felt kind of underwhelmed by it when I first saw it.
Yeah, I think you're wrong. Watch it again.
And I think the ending was kind of like, well, yeah, of course, that's the ending. It didn't really come as a surprise. And I think it's pronounced Dorchester.
Dorchester. I mean, I could have gone that way. I'm the only one that's still living in New England after all.
That's a fair point. What do you got for us, boss? Number 4.
Okay, I feel a little conflicted about my number 4 because if anyone has ever heard me on my show, I have like an ongoing one-sided feud with J.J. Abrams. He makes me so angry at his inability to ever satisfy me. But I loved Cloverfield. I loved it. And I wish I could go back to a time where that was the only time we used that word and we didn't say that other movies might be in the Cloverfield universe. Like, I don't want to get into that. I just really, really loved that movie-going experience. And found footage, man. It's fun stuff.
So what's the mystery in Cloverfield? Just what it is and why?
Yeah, just what is happening.
Okay.
How did we get to this? Where's the footage from? Because it starts with we're seeing him filming his party, and then the chaos kind of goes from there. And then it's found footage at the end, and we don't know who's found it and why.
That's true. I remember when that thing came out too. I poured over all the stuff online about it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved all the conspiracy
Way
stuff.
into it.
Looking at I really enjoyed that a lot. And I love Cloverfield Lane. I think that's fantastic. I didn't care so much for the spaceship one. What is the Cloverfield Paradox?
God.
Is that what it is?
Oh,
Yeah, that was
it's
bad.
horrendous.
And I was a little disappointed that Overlord wasn't a Cloverfield film.
I
Though
know. I
did.
really liked Overlord.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's good. I like that. It didn't even occur to me to think about that one. So my number 3 then is David Fincher's Zodiac. Another long film, but just an absolute, potentially, I think, masterpiece. The way that we weave through this timeline of the Zodiac Killer through the 60s and 70s, following Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Ruffalo, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Edwards, Chloe Sevigny. So many great performances in this thing, and you feel like you're there. I mean, the way that Fincher's able to reconstruct this time period, not only the set design, but the atmosphere and the fear that permeates everything that's happening. Particularly when Gyllenhaal goes to talk to the Roger Rabbit guy. What's his name? Why am I blanking on his name now? Charles Fleischer, right? Is that his name? Why am I blanking? Who's got to voice Roger Rabbit?
I don't know why you think I would know that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's Charles Fleischer. God damn you people. All right. Anyway, he goes to talk to him, and he's in the cellar, right? And then all of a sudden, he thinks something's going on. Anyway, Zodiac is fantastic. So if you haven't seen it, I think it's streaming on Netflix right now. At least it was previously. And
It is.
as atmospherics go, Zodiac's at the top of the list. So, is it Fincher's best film? Maybe Social Network is, right? I don't know.
I haven't seen The Social Network in a long time. I wanted to catch back up with that.
When we do our top 10 of the decade, we're going to probably have to...
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch that again, because I remember I really loved that film when it came out. Okay, so my number 3, Chris kind of spoiled it just by rattling off some stuff. My other genre pick in the sci-fi genre is Blade Runner 2049 by Denis Villeneuve. Stars Ryan Gosling in his second mention for the night. He plays a replicant Blade Runner who's hired to hunt down his own kind. Gosling's performance is kind of this blank cipher. It's fantastic, and seeing Harrison Ford pop back up in his crotchety old self is also a joy to watch. And the thing is just absolutely stunning. Just the way the set design, just the colors, the saturation, everything about the world is just so lived in that I absolutely love it. You are completely invested into this thing that it is almost real. Like you could almost reach out and touch it. Although it does ruin the whole, is Deckard a replicant with a solid, no, he is not.
That's true. All right, Lady Wan, what do you got?
So my number 3 is A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively.
Yes.
Highly recommend anyone checking that out who missed it in theaters. It's got some twists. It's weirdly funny. It's dark. It's just good stuff, man.
I love Lively in that thing. I admit I
She's
always kind of gave her
incredible.
short shrift, but she's a revelation in that thing for me. She really is quite good.
Good.
Matt, you were a little more underwhelmed by that than I was, right? I was a much bigger fan of that movie than you were. If I remember.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I just, in the show, I mean, obviously we have to when you start to gush at things, like I kind of try to push you back a little bit, but like, I think I really enjoyed that film, and it had tonal whiplash in like the best way possible. I don't even mean that as a criticism. It has like, it just goes from all these different bounces around, and I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it for sure.
Nice.
It's a little bonkers.
It is.
So my number 2, I'm calling an audible right now, I think, because I'm looking at my list, and as I'm looking at it, I think I need to reverse these two.
I just did that on mine.
I think I do.
Because I don't feel like the one that was my number 1 doesn't feel mysterious enough, so I'm changing it to my 2, but I refuse to take it off this list.
That's such as your prerogative.
All right, Matt, you were wondering when it was going to come up. Well, here it is.
What
movie is my number 2?
It's Brick.
It is indeed.
It is.
Rian Johnson's directorial debut. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays the young detective in the high school. His girlfriend calls him frantically asking for help. Ex-girlfriend. Frantically asking him for help, and then she disappears. A short while later, he finds her dead. And now he's determined to find out what happened to her. And again, all set in a high school. This thing also includes a lot of stylized 1940s, 50s noir
you're burying the lead on
language.
this one. Yeah, you're
which is
burying the
really
lead
what I
there.
think makes it. It's what puts it over the top for me and makes it an all-time favorite. As I said earlier, I watch this at least once a year. I've been waiting for it to come up on Blu-ray. They finally announced it was being released. It was supposed to come out by now, but it's been pushed back to, I think, next month, January 2020. But I put that pre-order in right away, baby. So I am really excited to get this in high definition. This film also has a soft spot in my heart because it's one of the first films I saw that inspired me to do this show. I was at the Art Theater in Hartford, Connecticut. It was called Cinema City. Actually, if you go to our Facebook page, that's our banner, is the old Cinema City thing. I took a picture of it before they knocked it down. But that was one of the... And I got a little card, Matt. It was a fold-out card that had definitions of all the slang terms from the movie.
Yeah.
I still have that. And it just made me kind of see movies in kind of in a different way. I saw Swingers there, too. But, Brick, as I said, all-time favorite, my number 2.
It's such a jarring film just to watch these high school students like talking like James Cagney in like a 1940s detective movie. It's pretty hilarious.
Lady, what have you seen,
I have
Brick?
to go see this. No, it's on my list. I got a
That's
big
good.
list.
Yeah. Hey, don't we all?
Exactly.
I have stuff that I'll never get to.
We have a Shane marathon that we were going to do all these classic films that we haven't seen to wrap up the year, but then we realized there are so many movies coming out that we're not going to have time to see. We had to push it off to 2020. So, and I'm not going to mention what films are on that list because I'm too embarrassed to mention it right now.
Should be embarrassed. All right, so my number 2, Chris ruined it for me, is David Fincher's Zodiac. I don't really know what else to say that Chris didn't say. It is available on Netflix. I was watching it right before this show started. It's Fincher at his best. The kind of coldness, the detachedness of it too, but it all seems very real. Everything is the very greenish color palette that runs throughout the whole thing. It's a fantastic film. It looks great. And the performance is great. And you know what? It's based, because it's based on a real thing, it doesn't really have closure, which is very frustrating, but it is very true to life as well. So fantastic film if you haven't seen it. Arguably his best film.
That's very good, Matt.
I wonder if we're going to have the same number 1, Chris. We very well might.
I'm working on my Ed Kemper.
Yeah, you sound. I don't know what that is. It sounds more like Deputy Dog or something.
All right, Lady Wan, what do you got? Numero dos.
Okay, I'm already prepared to argue this as a mystery movie.
Oh boy!
But my number 2 is Get Out. I know at first you're like, it's not a mystery, but when you watch it the second time, especially when you watch somebody who's seeing it for the first time and you've seen it once already, you're like, do you know what's happening? Do you know what's happening? And they don't. There's moments of weaving in who's doing what, like what's going on. It's an isolated house. It's playing on some of the tropes of a murder mystery. You just don't really know what's going down. So I will defend it as a mystery movie, but I don't have to defend how good it is. That's easy.
Yeah. Yes. No, I think I agree. I think that's a solid pick. I mean, I didn't make my list, but I had it in my honorable mentions. So yeah,
it didn't even occur to me to look at it that. It didn't occur to me to look at it that way.
Well, gotta think outside the box sometimes, Chris.
Hold on, judges. We will accept it. Okay.
Oh, good. Thank God.
My number 1, then. I'm wondering, Matt, if you and I have the same number 1 because it's so infrequent that this happens. That's a big problem we have, Lady Wan, on this show, is that Matt and our tastes are very similar.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of conflict.
I do not have that problem on my show.
Oh, let's see. It's always good when there's conflict. We had that years ago. We used to be a triumvirate. We had 3 people on the show, and the third guy, our tastes were like polar opposites. So those were fun. Those were some good episodes. Anyway, now the show just sucks. But thanks for listening. My number 1 is the film that broke this director wide, made him a household name, to give him some major projects for the years. We have the same one, don't we?
We have the same one.
It's Christopher Nolan's Memento.
Yes.
There it is. I think since released in 2001 here in the States, Guy Pearce plays a gentleman who has no short-term memory. Something's happened to him, and he can't make new memories. So he tattoos his bodies with certain clues to figure out who killed his wife. But there are other machinations working in the background, Matt, to try and steer him perhaps to do or to operate in some other capacity while he's trying to solve this mystery. And the film also plays backwards. It actually starts with the ending and then goes to the beginning. And actually, if you have I think it's on the Blu-ray as well. I had the special edition DVD that actually looks like a patient chart book.
Okay.
And they had a special feature on there. If you entered in, I think, the code right, you could actually watch the film in chronological order.
Okay.
But Memento is my number one. An absolute stone cold mystery thriller classic from the early aughts.
Yeah, thanks for ruining that for me, Chris.
I do what I can.
So, it really, it signaled the arrival of Christopher Nolan with a huge explosion of what he could do. Guy Pearce is fantastic. You have the fantastic character actor in Joey Pants playing his sidekick or his handler, and Carrie-Anne Moss, kind of this sinister presence who you're never really sure how much she's manipulating him. It's the whole thing is just fantastic, and just the conceit of it itself is very clever. And it makes it fun for repeat viewings to see what you can pick up and see if it's always a fun exercise to see if something like that is honest throughout the whole thing. So something you should watch.
There you go. All right, bring us home, Lady Wan. What's number one for you?
Number one for me is same director.
Ooh.
Okay.
I love The Prestige.
I almost had that on my list. It's so good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So much. Oh, I could spend forever talking about how much I love that movie. I will watch it at any point if I come across it on TV, I'm watching. It doesn't matter where we are in the story. I'm in for all of it. Scarlett Johansson's terrible accent, all of it. I just can't get enough. It's so good.
Yeah.
Just every part of it blows my mind.
Bowie is Tesla, man. Come on, you got to be listening to that. Yeah.
Oh, he's so perfect. And Christian Bale's so wonderful. And just even the opening of the movie. I will watch just the opening voiceover from Michael Caine with all of the hats, and I am just giddy for the ending of the movie. And it's the opening. I love it so much.
No, that's a great pick, too. Any honorable mentions for the cast and crew here? What are we thinking? Anything that, Lady Wan, anything that didn't make the cut for you, but you still want to talk about?
The only one that I was considering putting on here, you talked about with Mulholland Drive, and I didn't put it on because I truly don't have any idea what happens in it, despite watching it repeatedly. Every time I'm like, I still don't know. So.
I think that's fair. Matt?
Anything that we have, the only thing that we haven't mentioned, I think we mentioned a lot of my honorable mentions. Upgrade, I thought was kind of a fun mystery, because that's the whole conceit of the film. And then The Hateful Eight, kind of a bottle episode or a bottle film mystery. And then Searching, I thought was a fun film.
I didn't even think about The Hateful Eight, because I think of that more as a Western horror film than a mystery.
Yeah,
because even Tarantino said that's his version of The Thing, right?
Right.
So, but which is a mystery. Son of a gun! I didn't even think of it. That's a good pick.
And then I didn't know I couldn't remember if Memories of Murder came out in the last 2 decades. But if it did, I put it as an honorable mention because I couldn't be bothered to actually look up when that came out.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think it got a limited theatrical release this year too. 2003. You'd be good.
All right, very good. So there you go.
I had Blade Runner 2049. I actually had Arrival on there.
I did too.
Which is another Villeneuve film. The Guest. Have you seen The Guest?
Yeah, The Guest is good.
The veteran comes home to his to look up his old army buddy and gets entangled in some goings on in a corrupt town, maybe. And Martha Marcy May Marlene, Elizabeth Olsen's big debut film, I think is really interesting. Mr. Holmes, I enjoyed, with Ian McKellen, who plays an aging Sherlock Holmes who has one last mystery to solve. And then Wind River, starring Jeremy Renner and again Elizabeth Olsen, out in the Alaskas trying to solve the murder of a young Inuit woman. So those are my honorable mentions as well. What are your top 5 picks? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Who had the best list? I know it was me. Let us know. Shoot us an email. Coming up next week on the big show, Matt, I don't know. I think I think Honey Boy is playing around us, which we definitely wanted to check out.
Right.
And then there is also the option of Dark Waters, Queen and Slim. So we have a few things to choose. It'll be a surprise for everybody. I hope you're looking forward to it. What about you, Lady Wan? What's coming up next on the Screen Fix pod? What's going on there?
Next for us is we have our episode Fixing Knives Out, and then we're going to be doing Jumanji: The Next Level and Rise of Skywalker.
Wow.
Ooh,
Blockbuster December.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Be very curious to see how we fix Rise of Skywalker. I haven't even seen it yet, but we'll see.
I know. I'm already nervous about doing it.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun one. Well, that's going to be the big show for this week. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. We're on all the podcasting platform. And as always, if you go to your local Sam Goody, you can buy hard copies of the show right there for a mere $4.99 a pop. Lady Wan, they can find Screen Fix, again, on all the platforms, right? Your iTunes, your Spotify's, your name it, we're there.
Apple Podcasts, the whole deal.
Just go to their website, screenfix.com, and you can click on everything there.
Screenfixpod.com.
Excuse me. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right. Go to Apple Podcasts and give us a review as well. That'll help other people find the show. That's going to be the big show for this week. We're going to go ahead, take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
Was you just go in there and say, give me a fish?
Pretty much, yeah.